a mask that is
Reliable.
beard friendly,
Something's got to be beard friendly.
A
right?
beard friendly mask. It's called a paper bag over your head.
Is that what you do, Teddy? Is that what you do?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no existing face mask in the world that's gonna get a airtight seal around a beard.
Thing is, he's been wearing that mask even before the pandemic.
I find that it scares the children less.
There you go. I mean, my son's beard comes down to here, so I'm not quite sure.
Oh wow!
He's
I
one
kind
of the
of miss it. It definitely hid my weight gain through the summer. I shaved it. I'm like, whoa, what happened there? COVID-19 pounds.
The COVID-19, they call that. Yeah.
So true.
Right, a couple people coming in.
Yeah, where's our regulars? Oh, there we go.
Welcome, folks. Get everybody a chance to get their audio set up before we start. Todd, get your voice all warmed up.
Me.
Some me's. There you go. Yep.
No bark. I also hung my dog's flat screen
Oh, fun.
in her bunk. Yeah. Waiting for that to come crashing down.
There we go. We got a few of us in here now. We're a couple minutes past, so let's go ahead and do it for real. So, welcome to another Pragmatic Institute Ask Me Anything session with the Pragmatic Institute instructor. So good to have you all here. Welcome back if you've been here before. Good to see you again. We are an informal bunch for these sessions, so turn your cameras on if you can, if you're able to. We love to see your faces. Makes it easier to talk to a real person. Of course, it is an Ask Me Anything style session, so we have many questions that have been pre-submitted already, but if you in the Zoom here have questions as we go along as well, or need to clarify any of the answers that you're getting, go ahead and feel free to pop off mute, and it is a conversation, not a presentation. So feel good about that. You can also stick questions of your own over in the chat as we go along. You can send them to just myself. You can send them to everybody in the group. Either way is fine. I'll keep an eye on those as we go along and toss them over to our instructor. Let's give a quick shout out at the top here to the Pragmatic Alumni Community, or the PAC. This is a forum for impassioned product professionals for exchanging tools, examples, and tactics amongst themselves. We realize that in times like these, it is more important than ever to have a place where you can connect with your peers, and that's why this is big news. We are pleased to offer a complimentary 1-year PAC membership to everyone who takes or has taken a public online product class with Pragmatic Institute. That is a huge value, and we're really excited to offer it to you. So go check out more about that at pragmaticinstitute.com/community. And with that, we can introduce our Pragmatic instructor of the day, the fabulous Mr. Todd Middlebrook. Todd, how are you?
I am doing great, Eddie. How's everybody else doing?
It's Phoenix below 70 degrees, so we're freezing here, just freezing.
Well, I'm glad you took your parka off for this.
I did. I figured. I left my long johns underneath though, so I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. Where are you speaking to us from, Todd?
Austin, Texas, which apparently is warmer than it is in Phoenix. I think we're about 75 with about the same amount of humidity.
Well,
Doesn't
it's
quite feel
weird
like
times.
November yet.
Weird times. It's warmer there than in Phoenix. It's 2020, and that's just life right now. We have got, oh, we got from Eric, 16 degrees in Southern California. That sounds beautiful. If it's
Yeah.
anything like your screenshot there, Eric, good grief.
Ooh.
I think that
Love
was
that
the one
ocean.
there. So I don't know. We'll see.
And
Beautiful.
no more fires down there, right, Eric?
Yeah, it's getting better. A little bit of rain last weekend and cool weather, so it's getting better. But it's been a horrendous year.
The city council approved rain? That's kind of wild down there. SoCal.
Exactly.
Dolores at 42 degrees in Utah. Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
Oh, no, no, no. Utah's beautiful, but I guess just on the TV for me right now. I love Utah too. Beautiful place.
Thanks.
All right, Todd. We got some hard questions, some easy questions, some fun questions. Good, nice little mix up in the grab bag today.
All right.
And we'll see what we get from our audience as well. Let's start with, I've got one from Chantel here, who says, I know that Pragmatic teaches the outside-in approach, and I am currently working to get my own team to adopt this thought process. Good job, Chantel. What are some ways I can convince them how inside-out thinking can prevent products from being their most successful? Todd?
That is not the direction I thought that question was going to go. I thought, how can
Fooled
you
ya.
help me convince people that the outside-in approach is the right approach? But why is inside-out not the right approach? Oh, geez. For those of you that have taken our classes, we look at many different examples of products around the world that, people spend a lot of energy into building them, and then they weren't successful products. Most recently, we use the Juicero. That's a pretty famous story in Silicon Valley as an example of a company that built a $700 juice machine that turns out nobody wanted to buy. But my favorite example of these, you guys remember the Sky Mall magazine, right? Those are gone now, but boy, that was a catalog full of what were they thinking products. Why would somebody want to buy that weird ivy looking rock thing to put over my fire hydrant? Whatever it is. You could definitely point to examples of products like that. I don't know how successful it'd be, on a one-on-one basis with your individual teammates. But what I would do is I would look at your own product history and the decisions that you've made even within those products. Have there been some bloopers, some things that maybe we guessed at doing, and like features that we were really excited to create? We put them in the product, and maybe we can demonstrate, hey, nobody actually used that feature. The telemetry shows that nobody used it, or hopefully not something more egregious like, hey, remember that product we came up with? We built and we shipped it to the market and nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to use it. I would look for, I think those would be the most relevant real world examples of decisions that you made that you got wrong. That had we gone to our market, if we had just asked a few, not even asked hundreds or thousands, but if we'd asked a few people, we could have maybe decided between A and B that A was the right way to go instead of B. And we may not have wasted our energy and all those development hours building that feature if we had just maybe gone and talked to our customers and said, hey, if we were thinking about building this feature, if it did X, Y, and Z, what do you think? Would that be something that would make the product better? That's this outside-in approach. You can make it more difficult than it really is. It's just asking for advice, right? Validating your thoughts, getting your market to help you make small decisions as well as big decisions. So I would say look for examples where maybe you made the wrong decision or you regretted a decision that you made, and then very quickly say, hey, we could go ask a few. We could put some telemetry here. We could go talk to a few of our customers and vet some of our future decisions with them before we pull the trigger.
Todd, if you happen to have an inside out product in your line, do you have to necessarily scrap it and start over from scratch, or is it possible to rescue an inside out product by interviews and making some tweaks to it?
It's not a death penalty right out of the gate. It can be, right? It's how far off were you from what the market needs? I mean, it comes down to, were you solving a real problem that the market has? And, is it a problem that they not only have, but they're looking for you to solve it? And the solution you're envisioning, is it better than maybe the way they're already doing it today? If you're super far off, that could be a worthless product. I don't know. Or it could be maybe the implementation wasn't quite right, but with some future market feedback, we could get it back on course and turn it into the right solution for their problem. So how do you know the difference? You go ask your market.
Yeah, there you go, Chantel. Good luck with that. We've got one here from Christopher, who asks, how can I work to make my competitive analysis more useful for my internal teams like sales and marketing? How do you communicate that to the other departments?
This is a personal sweet spot for me. I love competitive analysis. In fact, such a large part of my career was focused on competitive analysis and competitive strategy. I think when most product companies, product professionals think about competitive analysis, it's always like product comparison, our product versus their product, in features, right? In features and functions. And I definitely made this mistake for a long period of my career where it was really, like counting features, our product versus their product. Who's got more features? Oh, in this case, I've got more features, therefore my product's more valuable. That's not necessarily true, right? It's not like every feature has some discrete unit of value. So, whoever's got more features has more value. What I suggest is really understanding competitive analysis, not from like a feature teardown, but through the eyes of your buyers. To win-loss analysis is the best way to do this, but to really get into the headspace of your buyers, of when they evaluated your product versus the competitive product, what did they parse out as the meaningful differences? And this is where, we may not like it, but they probably liked things about the competitor's product that were advantages over our product. What were they? And there are things that they probably parsed out as being advantages of our product that were meaningful, or if I can use that word, valuable. What were the valuable differences that they see in the product? And this is going to be especially important. I mean, your tech people probably want to know, is that feature in our product better than their feature? But your marketing teams want to be able to competitively position your products versus the competition. And why not go back to what your buyers have told you, what they saw as the advantages of your product? Let's tout those things. Let's ask them not just what they saw as the differences, but why were they valuable? And we'll turn around and we will regurgitate those same statements back to the market. And of course, the same is true for your sellers who are out there talking to those buyers in the present tense and in the future, being able to talk about your product because buyers ask you, hey, why should I buy your product instead of theirs? Right? Well, let me tell you why it's more valuable. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what the market has told us. So, yeah, doing win-loss analysis is a really way to do competitive analysis, not from a technology perspective, but through a buyer lens. So that would be my advice. Take a buyer focus.
Very cool. Christopher, go to it. Get out there. Talk to them.
Christopher.
I've got one here from Thomas. Thomas asks, getting ready to take some time off and head out to see family for the holidays. Good for you, Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Looking for good PM or PMM books to cozy up with that have some usable takeaways to implement in the new year. Any suggestions? Todd, This
Well-
guy is a super fan, super fan. When I curl up next to the fireplace, I'm not always reading about product management, but that's what Thomas has in mind here. So
Yeah,
geeks me.
I have to admit, works of fiction will be going with me for the Thanksgiving holiday. But good on you for wanting to better yourself through learning more about product management and product marketing. You do a search for product management books. There's definitely a handful of them out there, and this is going to sound a little bit self-serving. I don't put a lot of weight in most of them because product management is that term. It's a bit of a Rorschach test, right? When I say product management, Eddie has his interpretation of it. Callie's got hers. Eric has his, kind of like the ink block test, Callie sees it as a chalice. I see it as two people. It's you bring your own interpretation to it. And the interpretations that many of the authors of the books out there, and I'm not picking on anyone in particular, they don't often define product management the way we would here at the Pragmatic Institute. And it's evolved in how they have defined it. I would say in the last decade or so, many of these books are describing as product management is probably closer to I'd say product ownership in an agile sense, managing the dev team and releases. Whereas if you've taken any pragmatic courses, or I'm sure you've attended some of these Ask Me Anythings, we teach a market-driven approach, and that product management becomes the market experts for the organization and brings in market knowledge to help us figure out what products we could create, but ultimately what products should we create, and how can we create value into the market. So I don't find a lot of books that teach that element, that strategic element of product management. With one exception, just so happened that our founder, Craig Stoll, wrote a book called Tuned In. You can find it every place you find a book. And I do need to let you know that he's really talking about product management to a leadership audience, a leadership of a business, and basically saying you need to be tuned in leaders. You need to be tuned into your market. And it makes a compelling argument for those business leaders need to make better decisions, and they need market data. And guess what? They need product management teams to bring them market facts to help them make better decisions. So it's definitely talking to the need for product management to an executive audience. Now, there are some oldies but goodies, some books that I've really benefited from. They're not focused on product management specifically, but they deal with topics that will make you a better product manager. And probably one of my favorites, you've probably heard of The Innovator's Dilemma by now the late, great Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School. That book and its sequel, in fact, if you're going to read just one book, jump to the sequel, The Innovator's Solution. He talks about the dilemma for one paragraph or one chapter, and then the rest of the book is how to solve it. But it's really talking about the dilemmas, the traps that we can fall into as product organizations, the traps of just getting into iterative development, continuing just to listen to our existing customer base, and how that can lead to a product company, even a successful product company, in being disrupted by an innovative competitor. We're all proud of ourselves for being the #1 buggy whip manufacturer in the world. We've got 98% market share, but who cares? Because Ford's producing the Model A, right? And nobody's buying buggy whips and using horses anymore. So how to avoid that and to be innovative is the main focus of the Innovator's Solution. Talking about competitive analysis, back to the previous question, Blue Ocean Strategy is again, these are most of them from the mid 2000s. but they've really helped me over the years. How to do market segmentation, competitive analysis to find good business opportunities. I think that's where the term comes from, blue oceans compared to red oceans. How do you find business opportunities in blue oceans versus the red oceans? Why are they red? Because they're bloody, right? Because everybody's fighting. And so how can we find, and through market segmentation, how can we find opportunities where we'll be the dominant player, we'll be the big fish in the blue ocean? I loved that one. And last one I would recommend, if you haven't read it, we're just talking about validating ideas with the market. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries teaches, or rather advocates for this idea, similar to ours, of listening to your market and validating through product concepts, prototypes, and getting that feedback and actually using it not only to validate a product idea, but then how to move that into design thinking and validating our design. So if you work very closely with development organizations, I would definitely recommend the Lean Startup. That's all I can think of top of my head, but those are very helpful.
The Clay Christensen book, oh my goodness, he's so good at offering usable, practical advice. This isn't just a pep talk. All of his books, he manages to say, okay, let's actually put this into action, and let me tell you about a time when I've used this tip as well. He's so good at that.
You know, a little side note, his book, How Are You Going to Measure Your Life, is why I left Microsoft. He took all of his business principles that he had created at Harvard Business School and applied it to your life, like investment strategy. Where do you invest? Do you invest early in a market, or are you a late investor? Well, that goes with your family. You know, are you investing early, or do you wait until you retire and then you're trying to build a relationship with your children? It was a really meaningful book.
Yeah.
Who knows? Might help you with product management, maybe not though.
But that's another thing that I love about him, is that he's giving both this usable, practical advice, and then he's also very gifted at pulling back and looking at the big perspective and saying, why are we doing all this in the first place? So good. Good recommendations. And I had to get up to let my dog out for a second. Sorry about that. But I thought I heard you say your first recommendation was the Twilight books. Did I hear that right, Todd?
Yeah. And then
okay, so there you go. All right, good book recommendations. And I've got one.
I did remember one other book.
Oh, good. Do it.
Shining.
Also very good one. And creepy background there, Todd. Nicely done. Here is a question from Russell. Russell says, we seem to be finding significant drops in the engagement for our online offerings, email campaigns, social posts. Do you think this is a symptom of Zoom fatigue? And email overload? Or should we be looking at our own internal operations? If so, where would you suggest we begin to get answers to why this is happening? Zoom fatigue, it's real, man. I can tell you that, Todd.
Well, actually, for me to understand the question, I'm going to need you to define what that means. I don't know what
Zoom fatigue. Yeah, never heard of it, right?
Heard of it, yeah.
Nobody these days.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So your email campaigns and your interactions with your market have started to fall back. I may have been concentrating too much on my joke. Eddie, why don't you read that question again?
Read the whole, sure. Seem to be finding significant drops in engagement for the online offerings. Is it Zoom fatigue? Is it email overload? Should we be looking at our own internal operations instead? If so, where would you suggest we look?
Well, I would definitely start with the question of, look, when everything's going well, you can weather mistakes, right? So when things are going tough, we're all in the middle of a pandemic. It has impact on many of our businesses, both as product companies, but our customers as well. I think doing some soul searching about your internal processes is a good first step. Uh, hey, do we know our buyers? Are we targeting them in the right way? Uh, are, you know, are we the messaging that we're creating, the email campaigns, the content marketing? Do we know who we're aiming at? Uh, what type of buyers are they? Technical buyers or functional buyers, economic buyers? Are we taking our knowledge about our buyer personas? Because now maybe they are suffering fatigue. I don't know. And if when times are good and maybe they're not getting 100 email campaigns in their inbox every month, maybe they'll read and put a little bit more energy in trying to glean something relevant to them. But if they're getting overwhelmed, it's going to be more important for our messages to be crystal clear and targeted for them, so that it stands out of the crowd and does not require them to put as much energy and effort to try to find that relevance. So yeah, operationally, I would take a step back and say, do we know our buyer experience or the buyer process? Do we know if those campaigns are even relevant? If we're aiming at the right buyers, it could be that those channels of communication, as we just said, maybe are getting clogged. Do we need to find different channels of communication to communicate with them? Do we need to emphasize, rather than email, more of our social marketing channels? But what's going to help you to answer the question is, I mean, we can sit back in the conference room, the virtual conference room, of course, and we can all sit around and brainstorm. Is it this? Is it that? But at the end of the day, you really aren't going to be sure unless you do a little bit of what we call mojito. Nothing important happens in the office. I, honest to God, don't know why your engagement's not working, but what you could do is try to find some of your target audiences, your target buyers, and try to do a conference call with them, a Zoom call, and say, hey, what's changed in your business? Are you getting a lot of emails? Hey, did you happen to see our email campaign? Or, hey, you used to attend our AMAs all the time, but you're not attending them now. Why? Maybe they'll tell you they're getting overwhelmed. Maybe they'll tell you that their business has changed in some significant fashion. Maybe they've got higher priorities than, maybe the problems that you solve. Maybe that's taken a back burner. How can we, identify what the issues are? Are they listening some other place? Is the messaging no longer resonating with them? That's the best way to find out, is go talk to a few and ask them what's new about their business, what's new about their experience. And they, again, might be able to point you into a different direction or different messaging, or fine tune what you were already doing so it'll be more relevant for them. So there is no cure-all. You have to go diagnose the actual problem in the market.
Speaking specifically to the Zoom issue, I know as I speak with people, there was this initial novelty at Zoom. Most people hadn't used it before the pandemic, right? So the idea of getting to see everybody all in one place and not having to put on pants was exciting at first, right? And what some people may now be seeing as lessening engagement may just be that the novelty of that particular communication channel has worn off as well. And now we need to say, okay, everybody's familiar with the tool. We can't depend on them being excited about it. So now we need to go and figure out what will actually get real engagement, and instead of this sort of temporary bump because of a novel technology.
Well, I made a joke about not knowing what Zoom fatigue is, when in fact I've actually done some recent research across the internet, and there's a lot of articles on the topic. You're right, Eddie. There was some not only novelty, but I think appreciation that we could continue on in some facsimile of our jobs and our businesses. But there are trade-offs that I think really, and those negatives have started to build up. There was probably an overusage of video conferencing. Some of the things I've read, they're recommending that maybe you don't need to do as many video calls, but maybe it's okay to do more phone calls. Do we all really have to see each other? Because they're already doing research about the amount of concentration that it takes. That is actually more intensive than if we were all in the room trying to see, is Beth there squinting, smiling, or frowning? I can't quite tell because her picture's that big. And then also feeling that you've got a camera pointed at you and feeling that pressure of, if I look over here at my phone, are they going to know? And so there's just all this angst that is building up. So I would say that I would think about how you engage with your market, and even conducting research as I just suggested. Notice the first thing in my mouth was a conference call before a Zoom call, right? They may feel more comfortable talking to you without having to see you. And of course, I was just talking about Eddie, because nobody wants to see Eddie. No,
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Right. It's just really, let's think about what is that best engagement. But yeah, it is definitely a thing.
Well, I know, Todd, we happen to have a ringer on the call with us today in the shape of Callie, who's actually the Pragmatic Institute, our social media strategist. Callie, as long as we've got you here, can we ask you about alternative channels for communication other than Zoom these days? Are people getting more creative out there and finding new ways to engage as we get Zoom fatigue?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're definitely feeling the Zoom fatigue, right? I feel like, what are some other ways that we can kind of engage and have conversations? I mean, I know that there's a lot of those free virtual events where they're kind of doing different types of things where you can come in and you can create your avatar. You can go into a breakout room and meet other folks and do, a little bit of networking. So while kind of it seems like that the tool is still Zoom, getting creative in other ways of, I know one that I really liked was folks who used to go, they would meet bi-weekly, every couple of months, or excuse me, a couple times a month. They would always go to the same restaurant. So it's like, maybe next time you shoot them a gift certificate to that restaurant and you guys meet up on Zoom and you can still have your favorite salad and kind of connect. So I think just getting creative in those ways is probably one way to just kind of keep the flame alive, as they say, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, we're definitely outside of our comfort zone here, but that's where lots of good growing happens sometimes. So we'll be okay. We got it. Let's see here, Todd. I've got a question from Lucas. Lucas says, my company is looking to launch a new feature before the end of 2020. Woo, we just got this question too. Before the end of 2020. I think it's rushed, but there is really no changing their minds. With that being said, what do you think we should be paying the most mind to when accelerating, quote, the launch of a new product feature? So what should they be paying the most attention to while they have to accelerate this launch so that it doesn't go off the rails? What do you think, Todd?
So is this individual by chance on the phone call?
This is Lucas who submitted the question. I don't see Lucas in Zoom with us. Lucas could be on YouTube or just gonna come listen to it afterwards. But no, Lucas is not here to ask a clarifying question too.
Yeah, so without clarification, I assume they was the development team in a rush to deliver this feature by the end of the year. And the question around the considerations, this gets to something that can get us in trouble. Sometimes we have to define our terminology. We can use the same word but mean very different things. It's one of my favorite quotes. The British and the English, we are separated by a common language. We use the same words, but sometimes we mean very different things, and it can get you in trouble. Even between product teams and dev teams this idea of a product launch versus a product release. And what I potentially heard there was confusion. A product release means that the dev team's done with that feature and they're ready to roll it out, right? From the something, especially if it's like a cloud service, once they're done, we might be able to roll it out to the cloud server, put it out as an update and let people download it. But you know, if we're rushing something out, we've got to remember, why are we doing this feature in the first place? Well, we want to get it out to our customers, right? Well, a product launch is not just dev completing their work, but it's a product release coupled with some type of marketing campaign. And that marketing campaign is actually turning around and communicating to your target market, not only, hey, the update's available, the new feature's done, but it says, hey, Eddie, we've got this new feature for the product. Let me tell you how it makes your life better. Let me tell you how it makes your job better. And here's where you'll find it in the product. Now, if you click on this button, it's that education, that making aware of the, not only that the availability of the feature, but creating that relevance, having some level of marketing campaign. That could be an email that, you know, highlights those details. It could be a campaign that, depending on so many different factors, like who are you aiming that feature to? Is that feature intended to make your existing customers happy? Is that new feature aimed at trying to convince your competitor customer that now your product's better and they should switch over? Is this a new feature that we think that it's going to enable us to win a bunch of new deals of people that are out shopping today? Is this a feature that's going to enable us to go after a new industry that we've never targeted? I mean, think about the answer to that question. The marketing campaign of a product launch looks very different. What you say, the amount of investment required to create that awareness is going to look very, very different. And so when dev teams tend to think about, in this case, they said the word product launch, they're often not thinking about all of the other considerations. Great, if they're done on December 31st, there's no guarantee that we're going to get the impact of that feature. So I would say you need to go back and go to, you know, those core principles of what problem does that new feature solve? For whom does that new feature solve a problem? And who is that? Again, our customer, competitor customer, some new industry. And then what is the value of solving this new problem for them? That will give us, you know, the messaging. It'll give us the target audience. Will help us start to prioritize what we need to do. You know, does it have to be an email campaign, or do we need to wait until the pandemic's over? We need to rent out a ballroom, and we need confetti to fall. We want champagne. I mean, think about all the different ends of the spectrum of what a product launch could look like. You know, I was about to age myself and say, do you remember the Windows 95 launch? But of course, everybody at the call would say, no, Todd, we do not. Only I do. So, but big, you know, big splash, little splash, what's needed? So, you know, there's a lot of considerations. And, you know, I'll just kind of really throw one out there. Just because dev is done doesn't mean that's the time to launch this new feature. Maybe we need more time and energy to put that marketing campaign together, to teach our sales teams how to position the product now based on this new capability. Or now we need the time to build a sales force to go after that new industry that we've never targeted before. So often, especially in technology companies, the marketing campaign component of the product launch is not considered. And we think because we're done, because we've rolled it out, we've done a good thing. But they may never find the new feature. They may never understand what it does for them. That's why we need that some level of a campaign.
Well, just to let you off the hook for the Windows 95 comment, Todd, while I may not have been old enough to actually use the product at the
Oh, you
time,
missed out.
I distinctly remember the marketing campaign that surrounded it. It was a big deal. I remember seeing the commercials. I remember seeing the displays in the store. I remember knowing what it was and what it was for and how it was supposed to improve my life, even though I wasn't the target audience at the time, and I wasn't going to use it myself. This was a big deal. Eric's teasing me for being young. That's okay. That's okay, Eric. But that just goes to show you that they had their marketing message on point, and they preceded the launch with the message. So by the time the product was actually available, we knew what it was, we knew what it was for, and it was a successful launch, I think you'd have to say.
Well, to really age myself, this will only impress Eric. Eric, I have a Windows 95 T-shirt from the product launch that you guys remember when this was a thing? They would compress them into like a rectangle and then put them in cellophane. I have one of those. Now, I didn't work for Microsoft at the time. Someone who did gave me one of these because they had a whole box of them, but they predated. But let me go back to Windows 8 was done in the summertime when I was there. We launched it at the end of October. Why? Well, not only did the technology have to be done, we had the marketing campaigns we had to get done. We had to enable our sales force. And even then, we waited to launch the product until after Mobile World Congress, because we thought if we launched Windows 8, mobility was a major theme or value that we were wanting to emphasize. So they waited till right after Mobile World Congress to launch the product to the market to get that synergistic impact of the launch. So yeah, releases are not the same as launch. A launch is a superset of your product release.
There you go, Lucas. Don't forget that marketing message, even if the rest of the launch is going to be compressed. You got to get them out both same time. Todd, we got a couple minutes left. You got time for one more?
Sure.
One more. I want to squeak in Peter here. Peter asks, I was curious for some ways to collect market or non-customer data when working in a small to mid B2B software company. What do you think?
Well, customer data is rather easy because you've got relationships with them. You've got a database. So I love that you realize that your market's not just your customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's those other audiences within your target market segment. But the non-customers are the hard ones to find. That's the biggest dilemma. And it's particularly hard in pandemic days, but you can do things like if you know the titles, the roles of the buyers of your product, or the titles or roles of the users of your product, go to LinkedIn, do a search for those titles, those roles. You'll find a bunch of people whose profile, list them as that. You can reach out to them and do a direct message. The Callie gave you an example of online conferences and industry associations that are still getting together, but virtually. You can attend those to try to meet. If you can find, which of those associations, again, in their LinkedIn profile that they're members of, you might be able to go attend some of the sessions. And that helps you find non-customers. Then you got to appeal to them. Hey, I'd love to talk to you. I'd like to learn more about you. I'm not trying to sell you my product, by the way. Right? Hey, but like Eric there, you're such a great representative of this role. I was really impressed by your LinkedIn profile. I'm a product professional at this B2B company. We're focused on people like you. I'm not in sales. I've learned to make sure you keep saying that. And I would love to talk to you. I'd like to understand more from you. What's going on? What's your job like? How's it changed with the pandemic? Now, the question was, how do I get that data in? That's an interview, right? Let's write those things down. Let's bring them in. Even verbally, if you do a handful of those, I can come back and do a meeting with my colleagues, probably still on Zoom, and go, hey, I've gone and done 5 interviews with these non-customers. Let me tell you what I've learned, some patterns. They all thought this. This was, something that we used to see in our customers isn't true with these non-buyers. How are they different? How are they similar? And maybe even come up with a plan if we want to validate that those 5 or 6 really represent the other non-customers. Then you can go do a survey if you like. Go to SurveyMonkey or one of those others and ask a bunch of questions that validate those different characteristics that you've learned. Sorry, I got a private Eric comment. He and I are still talking about being the old guys on the call today, commiserating.
That's okay. We'll let you. Maybe it's time for you to go take a nap then, Todd. Is that it? Is that what's going on? Is that what's happening?
I'll go take my vitamins. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
Good
it.
man. Good man. Todd, your experience and wisdom has been much appreciated today. Thank you
This has
so
been a
much.
pleasure. And
I'm gonna
let me just
remind. Go ahead.
I know we're going into the holidays. I want to wish everybody good holidays here in the United States, and wish everybody continued safety and health.
Beautiful. Yes. Be safe. I'm going to point everybody to the next in our product chat series that happens Tuesday, November 17th, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And in that instance, we will have Luke Fralier, CEO and product manager at Centricode. He's going to discuss continuous customer testing strategies that put real-time feedback into your hands during agile development. So check that one out. And of course, we will be back again every Friday here for the Ask Me Anything series with the Pragmatic Institute instructor. That happens Fridays, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the next one. And Todd, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Everybody who's here in Zoom with us, thank you so much for being here. We love it. Hello out in YouTube land. Welcome to you as well. Be safe. Have some great holidays, and we will see you again next time.
Go cuddle up with a good product management book.